What are the top 10 things I wish I knew before I started my aviation career? I'll explain it all. Coming up. Hey 7-4 crew, welcome back. If you don't know me, my name's Kelsey. I'm a 747 pilot. My channel, 7-4 Gear, is all about aviation. Today, this is a view from my hotel room. I'll let you guess in the comment section below where I'm at, and later on in this video, I'll tell you exactly where I'm at. One of the most important things about being a pilot is learning from the mistakes of others. And that's why we spend so much time investigating prior crashes, so we don't make the same mistake twice. In this video, I'm going to tell you my top 10 things that I wish I knew before I started my aviation career, and there's going to be a lot of points that actually apply to you even if you're not in aviation. I'm going to try to make this 10 points in 10 minutes so I can make it quick, so let's start the clock. Aviation is very humbling. I know for me, I was always very quick to pick up any sport that I tried to learn or anything that I wanted to learn. I usually could pick it up pretty quick. Aviation was not that way. It took a little while to become proficient because there's a lot of different things to become proficient at. And when you go through flight school, as soon as you become good at something, you move on to the next thing, right? Because you're spending a lot of money while you're up there flying. Just realize that you're going to feel stupid at times as you go through flight school, and that's totally normal. It's not a big deal. It's going to be a humbling experience, so just realize that it's totally normal to feel stupid from time to time as you go through your career in aviation. Aviation is a very small community. You can't go around and be a dick to people, or you can't go around and not be serious when it's time to be serious. There are people who you're going to meet now early in your aviation career, which maybe 10 years from now may be a chief pilot or maybe somebody in a position of management. So it's important as you go through your career that you don't run around just screwing people over to get to that next step. You may end up dealing with those people, and even if you don't deal with them, people will ask around about you if you're trying to get a job. I've seen many pilots in a position of power early in their career, and then later on that comes back to bite them, where they can't get a job because they were so rude and so bad to a lot of the people below them that now they're trying to get another job and people are like, God, I hate that guy! Just realize that there's a time to be serious and a time to be fun. But also, there's never a time to be rude to the people that are below you or the people that you're working with. That will always come back to bite you. Nothing is guaranteed. There's a lot of people that I met over the years that think, oh, I made it to this airline, I never have to do another interview again. That's not the way it works. You know, if you think about airlines in the past, Pan Am, TWA, Eastern, I'm sure when those pilots got there, they thought they had it set. Because of everything that's going on with Corona, there's probably going to be a big switch up that's about to happen. Just realize there is nothing that's guaranteed when you get into this profession, or a lot of professions. And the saying is, you don't know if you made all the right decisions until you're 65 or until you retire and look back. That's the only way that you know. So just because you got that job that you've always been hoping for, that's not time to just showboat and tell other people how great you are and how stupid they are for staying at their airline. Find a mentor. And when I say find a mentor, that could be the pilot that you're flying with on that day. But it's very important. I often, when I was new as a pilot, when different airlines that I worked for, especially when I was new onto an aircraft, I would ask the other person I was flying with, hey, is there anything you see I could improve on? See, a lot of people might be critical, but they're not necessarily going to say it to your face. So if you ask them and you open that door, you can find out things that you maybe didn't know that you were weak on and things that you can improve on. And that's how you get better quicker. Another reason to find a mentor is, and this applies for your aviation career, if you can find someone that is where you want to be in your career, they can help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls. And it could just be at your flight school. It could be your flight instructor. Tips that you can learn from them. Once you're a flight instructor, you can talk to your friends that are at the regionals. Ask them. It doesn't have to be at the end, but people that are where you want to be or your next step, use them as mentors. Always leave an out. Now, this is something that you may or may not have learned early in flight school, but you always want to leave an out. When you're out flying, don't fly and assume that you'll definitely make it into your destination. Plan for your alternate. Plan for a backup from that. And that is for a lot of different things. I've seen people where they go into an airline and they start living on what they call golden handcuffs. They get there and they start living really lavish lifestyles because they're making good money. And then when they need to make a jump into another airline, they can't because they're making too much. So they start living at that lifestyle. So you want to leave it out when you're flying and in your job. You want to have a backup plan in case things there don't work out, that you can make a move. Or you can make a move to another airline. A lot of times bigger airlines, the first year pay is terrible because they pay a lot of money for you to go through training. And I met guys and they say, well, I can't go to that airline because I can't afford that first year pay. Don't get yourself in that situation. Leave yourself an out. Push your limits. I know a lot of times early in my career I'd be flying in somewhere and I'd be looking at the weather thinking, man, this is going to be a tricky approach. But I always wanted to push my limits. The reality is there's going to be times you're not going to be comfortable, but you have to push those limits. Now, not too far, but you want to push your limits of what you're comfortable with as far as for weather and wind and things like that. That doesn't mean not leave yourself an out. It just means, oh, it's going to be really gusty, it's going to be really windy. Okay, well, let's go ahead and give it a shot. Let's try. If it doesn't look good, well, you can always go around. But it's good to keep pushing your limits and pushing, especially as you're a new pilot on a new aircraft, if you're flying with a captain, because now you have someone there that can mentor you as you're going. So if it's really strong crosswind, tell them, hey, listen, I'm not very comfortable with this, but I'm going to go in and do the best that I can. And if it's not good, we'll go around and then we can talk about it when we come back in and land. It's important to be pushing those limits and trying to become the best pilot that you can possibly be. Speak up when you're not comfortable. That's important when you're dealing with your crew or anyone else. There's been a lot of crashes that have happened because the pilots were nervous to speak up. An example that I was thinking about when I wrote this was the crash that happened in Colombia a few years back with the Brazilian soccer team. They didn't take enough gas, and instead of telling air traffic control, hey, listen, we are very low on gas, we need to get in immediately, they didn't say anything. They're trying to hide something because they should have stopped to get gas, and they didn't. So as a result of that, they ran out of gas. And without telling ATC, hey, we need to get in there now, they were trying to hide it. Don't hide it. If you're in a jam, talk to your crew members, talk to air traffic control. They are there to help you. At the end of the day, you may get in a little bit of trouble, but it's better to get in trouble than be dead. Another example of that was a flight that happened a long time ago. It was a CRJ-200. They flew up to 41,000 feet and they basically locked the engines. Instead of telling air traffic control that they had a problem and lost both engines, they were trying to hide it. And they ended up crashing and killing themselves. If you get yourself into a jam, talk to air traffic control, use every available resource, get yourself on the ground safely, and again, you're probably going to be on a lot of trouble if you've just locked up 2 of your engines, but at least you're alive. And at the end of the day, that's very important. Take care of the crew in your command. Now, if you're a first officer at an airline, that might be the flight attendant. If you're a captain, it's everybody beneath you, including the gate agents. I've flown with a lot of different pilots, and I've seen people that have not taken care of the people below them, and I've seen people who have taken care of the people below them. I've had it where, an example, I went through a training where the guy was going through captain upgrade and I was the new first officer on this aircraft, and that guy gave me some tips. He said, hey, I would do this and this and this when you do this maneuver. And so I did it. And the instructor started yelling at me. When the instructor started yelling at me, I looked at the captain who had told me to do these things, and he was just quiet. And I thought,
dude, you told me to do these things. At least back me up when I do them.
And he didn't want to take the heat. When you're looking for a situation for your commander to protect you, you would expect that they would step in that situation, and he didn't. On the reverse of that, I was flying once, we were coming in onto a runway that had a lot of things going on. We got a little bit behind on the aircraft. I was actually flying. The captain was supposed to make a radio call 3 miles out to let them know that we had to get permission to land. Well, he didn't do that. As soon as we landed, air traffic control said, hey, give us a call when you get into the park. Immediately, I knew exactly what it was. I said, you didn't call to get permission to land, did you? And he said, I don't think I did. And as soon as we parked and all the people got off the plane, I walked back up there and I was listening to him on the phone with air traffic control. And he was saying, 100% this was my fault. The first officer was the one flying. It was on me. If you have any questions, if you need me to come up there and talk with you guys, I'd be happy to do it. And that just put a really good taste in my mouth as, hey, this is a guy who, he messed up. Now, even he was the type of guy that even if I had messed up, he would still take responsibility for it. Realize when you're in command, whoever you're in charge of, it's important that you are taking responsibility for what they are doing, even if they're messing up. Don't try to shift and put the blame on them. Another example that I did personally, we had a flight attendant that showed up late, but the passengers were late to board and there was another issue. Well, the gate agent tried to blame the flight attendants. We ended up getting to our destination like 3 flights later when I was at the regionals. We ended up getting to our destination and one of the managers was calling the flight attendant and yelling at them. Now you see, flight attendants don't have a lot of protection and they're very likely to get fired, and a lot of times they get bullied by management, which I don't really agree with. Well, I heard this guy who was known for being a bit of a bully to the flight attendants talking with the girl, and she was being like quiet and yes, I know, no, that's not quite what happened. And then he kept cutting her off. I took the phone from him and I said, hey, listen, this is the deal and this is what happened. And I explained everything that happened of why we were actually late. Now, the flight attendant was late getting to the plane, that's true, but that was not what caused the delay. And so I wanted to make it very clear that it was not her fault of what happened. And if you had any questions, to call me. I gave him my cell phone number, and I said, don't call her anymore about this. If you have any questions, you can call me. But I know her and a lot of the flight attendants that she worked with really appreciated and knew that in a bad situation that they could come to me and I would make sure and do the very best that I could to protect them. If you are taking care of your crew like that and you have that mentality, it is going to help you in the long run. Live on your last paycheck. There are times where you are moving up and things have been going really well, and then you have to take a step back. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but you might upgrade to captain and then all of a sudden there's a shrinkage at the airline and then you end up going to first officer. And if you went to captain and now you bought a new car and you got a new apartment and you started going on all these trips and you ran out some credit card debt, you can't go back to that earlier paycheck. Just plan on living on your previous paycheck. If you haven't figured out where I'm in right now, I'm in Nagoya, Japan. I haven't been here for a while. I used to come here all the time on the Dreamlifter, but that's where I'm at. Get a side hustle. I have flown with guys that worked in real estate as real estate agents, real estate developers. I've met guys who do coding on computers. I've met a few YouTubers, but get something that you can do on the side. Being a pilot is a part-time job. If you have something on the side, you have a secondary income to rely on. Don't live on that income, just have that going on the side. Because like Corona has taught a lot of pilots, you need to have a secondary income if things don't work out. I'm not saying live in fear or things like that. I'm just saying you want to have something on the side just in case things don't work out or there's a slowdown or you get furloughed. See, the last 5, 6, 7 years, things have been so great, people thought, oh, I'll never have a problem in my career. That's not how aviation works. And when I'm talking about side hustle, I'm not talking about a Barry Seal run some drugs type side hustle. I'm talking about a legit side hustle. But speaking of that, if you haven't seen the Hollywood versus reality that I did on American Made starring Tom Cruise, I'll put a link to that video right here. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep the blue side up.